to the United stand. Lots to talk about tonight. Jose Mourinho backed by the Manchester United board. A 5-part plan that's come out in The Guardian as to how Manchester United win the title. Definitely want to talk about that. Fred on why he chose Manchester United over Man City. I think it's an irrelevance, but we will talk about it. The best candidate for Director of Football that many of you won't have heard of. To be honest with you, I hadn't really heard much about him until today. And what else? Also want to talk about the complexities of what Gary Neville's saying about this obsession with the press. I actually saw somebody say earlier on that Gary Neville is becoming to Jose Mourinho what Graham Souness is to Pogba. I don't think it's that bad. I think Gary Neville's definitely got the best interests of Manchester United at heart, but probably does need to retract a little bit. We are trying to build something at the moment, Gary. You might be right. Mourinho might not be the right person. There's a lot of United fans who agree with that. But I would just ask at the moment, what are we doing at the start of this season to deserve the negativity? Let's at least wait a couple of games. But let's fly into this. This morning on my channel, I was talking about Zidane to Manchester United. You know, it was a great comment from Manchester Skulls 18 earlier on saying that, and Notorious Nerds just said it as well, we want Zizou. But Manchester Skulls 18 was saying that at the end of the day, if Zidane wanted the Manchester United job, who can turn down a 3 times Champions League winner? I mean, it doesn't matter how much you like Mourinho. If he's available, surely you go for it. It doesn't work like that. I think for fans it worked like that, but it doesn't work like that for football clubs. Mourinho's in a massive contract. Only 2 weeks ago, we were talking about a £12 million cost it would be to get rid of Mourinho. But this has come out after. So Zidane has basically said that through L'Equipe, French reports that he wants to come to the Premier League and Manchester United's the job that interests him the most. I don't think Mourinho can moan about it. I said it this morning. I seem to remember Mourinho was on the shoulder of Van Gaal for 6 months saying he wanted the job through the press. So if Mourinho is going to get a bit of a taste of his own medicine, he'll have to just deal with it, which I'm sure he can do. But in response or straight after, the conspiracy theorist in me would say it's been done on purpose. You've got Zidane coming out saying he's potentially interested in the Manchester United job. And then a few hours later, this afternoon, in fact, you've got Sky Sports with a story that the Manchester United hierarchy, the board, are very happy with Jose Mourinho, and they're not concerned about the Mourinho third season syndrome, which many of you have mentioned on this show over the summer, that Mourinho never stays anywhere longer than 3 years, and it tends to go badly wrong in the 3 years. Some of the quotes that Sky Sports are coming out with are that Manchester United are not concerned about that third year syndrome, because actually, when it's gone really bad for Mourinho, he tends to be the title holder. So he was the title holder with Chelsea and he lost his job within 6 months. And I believe it was the same at Real Madrid. But more importantly, Manchester United, from this article from Sky Sports, have quoted some other things. There is total harmony within the squad. You know, that might be news to you lot, but apparently there is total harmony within the squad. They appreciate what Jose Mourinho has done. They appreciate the fact that there's been progress year on year in his time that he's been at Manchester United. And also that, the third year is where it's all at, and he must be given that third year. So some cynics would say it's a vote of confidence, and for anybody who's been watching football for any period of time, a vote of confidence is when you're going to get the sack. It used to happen quite a lot. You'd have a manager who's had a few bad results, and the board come out and say, we've got total confidence in the manager. And then 2 days later, they sack him. It's the dreaded vote of confidence. I don't think that's what's happening with Jose Mourinho here. I think the board are quite right to back Jose Mourinho at the moment. It's a shame they didn't do it in the transfer window. But let's be honest. He is our manager. We should back him. We shouldn't be embarrassing and start chanting Zidane's name right now. It doesn't mean I haven't got a problem with... What does it matter if I do have a problem? But if you want Zidane as Manchester United manager, there's nothing wrong with that. I would just urge people to be a little bit classy about it and wait. Zidane's not going to take a job in the next few months. I think Zidane comes into the equation next summer, or if things go badly wrong this season for Jose Mourinho. And do you want that? Do you want Zidane to be Manchester United manager because United collapse and lose a load of games and end up lower than Arsenal? Do you want that to happen again? I mean, that would be the third time. I personally would like Jose Mourinho to get through this season, achieve something, and then maybe go, I don't want to do anything more than 3 years. I'm off. Zidane comes in. And he takes over a club that's successful. That's what I would like to see happen. I don't necessarily want Jose Mourinho to be our manager next season, beyond this one, because I don't know whether he's ever going to get rid of some of these idiocies, such as the Fellaini, the Phil Jones, the Ashley Young at left back. I don't think he's ever going to get rid of that. So long term, I probably would like another manager. But for this year, the third year that he has earned, I'm Mourinho in, and I want him to do well. And it's good that the board are saying that, because things can change very quickly. Things can change very quickly. We've got Brighton on Sunday. We've got Spurs the following Monday. If we don't win both those games, I can tell you now that Liverpool and City, when you look at their fixtures, they are going to go off on it like a steam train. So United need to do that as well. And as we know, look, whether you're Mourinho in or Mourinho out, the reality is Sevilla, the summer, his comments, some of the bad performances, the bad style of play. Mourinho hasn't got a lot of love in the bank with United fans anyway. So if it goes wrong, it will go wrong very quickly for him. But at the moment, I know it's only one game, and there was, I think the Leicester game was perfect because there was enough in there for the optimists and there was enough in there for the negative people as well. Oh, it was like last season, but the positive people, there was glimpses of what we can do. So I think we're in a really good position at the moment where I don't think it's going to be too long, but I think we're going to either see real positivity growth or we're going to go back to where we were last season. And as I did on my predicted lineup at lunchtime, if you haven't seen that with the power superstar Brandon on there, give it a watch. But his lineup, I'm sure most people would go with his lineup over mine. I've just got this horrible feeling he's going to bring Fellaini back into the 11 on Sunday. And if he does that, then he's stepping further and further closer and closer to the exit door because you can't do that. Nikhil Bilal says, give Jose this year, and if he tanks it, get Zizou for the future under a good director of football. I love Jose and hoped he would get us the treble. Well, I just hope he can get us a title, that's why. Gareth Burns says he loves me, thank you. What happens to That's Football? Don't you do watch-alongs anymore, says Marvin Millen. This is the United Stand. That's Football's not finished. Just taking a little bit of break of it. That's Football's basically for watch-alongs, which aren't United related. So they will be back. I nearly did one tonight, but I wanted to do the United Stand instead. We beat every big team last year, says Joe Marquez. Well, let's bring this in then. There's a few things I want to talk about, but let's bring this one in. This was from Jamie Jackson, who's a Northern correspondent, very good around Manchester United in The Guardian. And he's come out with a 5-point plan as to how Manchester United win the title this year. And it's got me thinking I want to actually do my own video on this and we'll do it live so we can interact. But I just thought, you know what? It's not always about what I say, what you say. Let's just bring this in and see what people think. So his 5-point plan from Jamie Jackson in The Guardian. Number 1, calm relations. And I think what he's talking about there is the relationships between Pogba and Martial. He's got to calm it down. So I wouldn't disagree with that one. Don't know what your thoughts are, but I wouldn't disagree with that one too much. Second one, director of football. I think director of football has just become a real buzzword at the moment. It's not something... We've spoken about it on the United Stand for the last couple of years. And I think the director of football is only really that relevant because Woodward won't buy Mourinho's players. If Woodward would buy Mourinho's players, we wouldn't need a director of football. And I don't think Jose Mourinho wants a director of football either. I think the importance of a director of football is to get signings through the door, which is important, but it's not going to help us win the title this year. And also, so yeah, it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but I disagree with director of football being a part of a 5-point plan to win the title this year. What's the director of football going to do now? The summer's gone. Away from home against the top 6. So we need to win more games away from home against the top 6. I think this is a bit of a dig at going to places like Anfield and parking the bus, but we got a point. We went to City and we won. We went to Arsenal and we won. We lost at Chelsea and Spurs. So 2 wins, 2 losses and a draw. Again, I disagree. I don't think our away form against the top 6 is that bad. I think it's very important to be even-handed, and I think our form against the top 6 last season was very good. But certainly the away form, Arsenal and Man City were really memorable results, really good performances. Chelsea was Phil Jones's fault. We should have got a point there. Spurs was Phil Jones and Ashley Young's fault. And we only lost 2-1, and that was the game where he subbed Pogba off. And Liverpool, we always know how to go there and get a point. So, I disagree. I don't think that's where we need to improve. I think we need to improve against Huddersfield away, against Newcastle away, against some of these teams that we drew at home with over Christmas. Was it Burnley and Southampton? They're the points that you need to make up and do what we did last season against the top 6. Score more goals. I do agree with that one. I give it a star. Score more goals, create more chances. They go hand in hand. It is a problem at United. We didn't do it much against Leicester on Friday. We didn't do it much last season. We need to create more chances, and that'll mean more goals. So I do agree with that one. And style of play, I agree with that one as well. Style of play will mean score more goals anyway. So the style of play needs to be more progressive, more risk-taking. But that wouldn't be my 5. I agree with 2 of them. Score more in style of play. I don't agree with the away form. I don't agree with the director of football. And calm relations, well, I sort of half agree with that. So I think he's got 2.5 right there. Honestly, only Zidane can match the masterclass tactician that is Pep Guardiola, says Shirazad. A few people getting involved in that one. It was 2-0 to Spurs, apparently, says Prince Fresh. Okay, fine, fair enough. We need to press more, says Samuel. And with negative football and a manager that never stops complaining, I can't see us winning anything, says Vinny. Well, look, you're all right about that. But all I'm saying is, in the immediate past, we had a positive manager trying to play a positive way of football. It could be the eye of a storm where it suddenly goes calm, and against Brighton, we're going to be back in that storm of negativity again. But let's just see. Let's see what he says in the press conference on Friday. Let's see what his team selection is against Brighton on Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. We don't know what he's going to do, but I'm looking forward to it. Talking of which, Gary Neville, I spoke about Gary Neville on Monday night, I think it was. And there is a further quote that we didn't read out on Monday night, which is, Pochettino, if Pochettino was to come to Manchester United, Pochettino likes 23 to 24-year-olds. He likes pushing up and pressing from the front, and Mourinho doesn't. So that's Gary Neville again saying about Mourinho and his style of play, which he said is painful to watch at times. I do think there is an over-exaggeration on pressing. I think United do need to press more, but how many of us used to go on about pressing the ball 10 years ago or even 5 years ago? It's a modern phenomenon to be passing the ball out from the back and pressing from the front. Liverpool do it, Spurs do it, City do it, Chelsea will do it now with Sarri. United don't do it. So it stands out like a sore thumb. But I don't necessarily... I actually think that United could, instead of copying what everybody else does, what I would like to see United do is, what I would like to see Manchester United do is do something a little bit different. Obviously be aggressive when you haven't got the ball. I don't mind that. I don't necessarily think you have to press to do that. I just think you've got to hold your ground and have a couple of players in positions to pick up runners, and then your front two can do the pressing. I'm not too bothered about the whole team pressing. What I would like to see, and I still stand by this, and I still think it would be very relevant in football today, and not many teams do it, I'd like to see us using the width. I'd like to see have two fullbacks who bomb forward and two wingers who can put natural crosses in, and I'd like to see midfielders busting a gut to get in the box, and I'd like to see our forwards making movement in and around the box. Not many teams do it. There is absolutely no reason it can't still be successful. I'd like to see United, instead of copying everyone else, I'd like to see United do what we've been doing for 30, 40, 50 years, and that is exciting flanks with fullbacks who bomb on. And I'll tell you what, it would be successful. Why do we need to be what everybody else is? To be honest with you, in my time as a Manchester United fan, which spans well over 30 years, I don't really remember Manchester United being a team that plays through the middle. We can, but we've always been a width team, and I think it's really sad that we've lost that. And I think if we got that back, that would be our style of play that everyone would be excited with. Why do we have to... And what I'm saying is, in relation to Gary Neville's comments and your comments and a lot of the press comments, why do Manchester United have to play the way Liverpool play or the way Manchester City play to play exciting football? That's their way of playing. Why do we do that? Why can't we go back to doing what we did before? 4-4-2, Donald Brigham. I don't agree with 4-4-2. I think 4-4-2 is dead. What I would do is I'd go 4-5-1. Or 4-3-3. You'd still get your width. I mean, if you think about the way we play with a 4-3-3, Pereira, Fred and Pogba, Sanchez and Lingard, I mean, they're not the greatest players to have on that width, but they would be your width. You get Fred and Pogba busting a gut to get in the box with Pereira sitting, Lukaku's in the box, put your cross in, you've got four people in the box if you count the other winger. So that's what I would like to see Manchester United doing. And I think and fast on the break with wingers who can cross, says Mr. Bazinga. That's what we've always done. Scott Kidd says Neville keeps yapping his mouth like he wants the Mourinho job. I don't think Gary Neville wants the Manchester United job. I think Gary Neville is a pundit for Sky Sports, and that is his job, to talk about all clubs. And I think he will be negative about Arsenal this season. I think he'll be positive about Liverpool and Man City, because that tends to be the sort of landscape we live in at the moment. And he can't ignore Manchester United. And to be honest with you, if you were talking about Manchester United at the moment, you would have to go with the last 6 months, which haven't been that great on and off the pitch. But I do see sprouts of positivity, and I hope that continue. We need proper fullbacks and out-and-out wingers, says Arman. Yes, we are a long way off doing that. And let's not forget, Pochettino doesn't play with natural width anyway. Jose is a Chelsea man. He still loves Chelsea and loves its players, says Cheja. I doubt that very much, because they treated him like crap. Neville is a glorified pundit, says Notorious Nerd. I think he's quite good, to be fair. Mourinho out, Zidane in, says Black God. And United's problem is a lack of strategic investment in talent. Not having a proper right winger while spending so much on left wing players forwards and number 10s is a disgrace. That's from Jean-Luc Picard. All the players now just want the money, says Lazar James. I think 3-5-2 is terrible. It's a gimmick formation that was found out last year and got Conte the sack, says Shells HD. The thing about football, before I move on to the director of football thing and the Fred thing, is that football is always circular, or it goes in cycles. And at the moment, you've got this press, tiki-taka, pep football, really. And Klopp does it and Pochettino does it. But in 5 years' time, that'll be gone. It'll be something else. And that's why I'd like to see United be the next of something. There is no... When Barcelona were doing this around 2011, everyone was like, they're going to dominate football forever. How do you beat this system? And then people beat the system, and then it evolved into something that was slightly different. I would just like to see United being a trendsetter. I don't think Jose Mourinho is ever going to play width, and that's sad. And Van Gaal was never going to play width. Moyes tried to do it, but he was terrible. Fire Woodward and sack Mourinho and spend big and done, says Ray J Walker. Well, we couldn't do that now because we wouldn't be able to spend the money. SB says it's funny how people think Mourinho will change. I mean, I must admit that is sort of a dark cloud that hangs over me, because all my optimism and positivity is based on an assumption that Mourinho will change, and a lot of people feel that he won't. We're going to find out very quickly. If he brings Fellaini back into that team and Phil Jones back into that team and Ashley Young back into that team, we're going to see the same football as last year. And is that going to be enough to keep United fans off his back? I would hazard a guess, no. But until that happens, you've got to keep believing and you've got to keep hoping. Talking about Fred, let me just say that Fred has come out and said, said Fred, that Manchester City was an option. A couple of other teams were an option, but I chose Manchester United. I think he had a chat with Gilberto Silva, who, is he not his agent anyway, formerly of Arsenal? Look, you know what? My stance on this is that you will, if you look around on social media, you will see some Twitter accounts saying, Man City, take the L, we took Fred, he snubbed you. There's a couple of reasons I really have got no interest in this. I'm not interested in the my club signed a player that your club wanted trophy. This is something that Liverpool pretty much used to get their players to do. I think Joe Cole said it in his autobiography. As soon as I signed for Liverpool, they told me to say United wanted me. Fabinho obviously didn't get the memo this summer because he said United were never in for him. But it is a little bit small club mentality to be boasting about players that come to your club who other clubs wanted, because the reality is Man City won the title by 20 points. That should be our focus, not the fact that we nicked Fred and Sanchez off them. I mean, the Sanchez one, at the time, it looked hilarious. It now looks like a bad joke, doesn't it? But hopefully he'll come good. But, I'm not having a pop at Fred for saying that, by the way. He was asked a question, he answered it. That's fine. it's nice that he wanted to come to the club. But I think us as fans, do we need to be celebrating that? No, I really don't think we should. I think Fred hopefully will be a good signing, but have we gone that small-minded now that we want to celebrate a player that chooses Manchester United over Man City? I think if we're winning the Premier League, that's fine. But where we are at the moment, I think we need to be focusing on what we're all about. So that doesn't really rock my boat, to be honest. Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, Hazard, Lukaku. How many more will be destroyed by the new specialist in failure? Says Abhijit B, obviously anti-Mourinho. Messi Lingard says, if United sack Mourinho mid-season, Zidane will have a big hole dig out of United, and fans won't be happy with Zidane either because he will finish 7th because Mourinho did crap. United don't tend to sack managers halfway through the season. In fact, I can't think the last time that we did that. I can't, to be honest, I was barely even talking when Ron Atkinson was sacked, so I can't remember when he went. I don't know whether that was the end of the season. I think it was. So, Moyes, end of the season. Well, slightly before, pretty much the end of the season. Van Gaal, the end of the season. So, I think Mourinho's here for the season, unless it goes ridiculously bad. And I don't want that to happen, and you shouldn't want that to happen. And I know the Mourinho outers are like, I can't put up with a season of this. But you've got to ask yourself a question. If United don't like sacking people in the season, and they're only going to do that if we're like miles off the top 4, you can't wish that to happen. You've got to just, I think you've just got to fasten your seatbelt, Go with what Mourinho's going to do and hope that he gets his top 4. And then if he goes, doesn't he? But the other scenario is he does so bad that he gets sacked. But whoever comes in, we're miles off top 4 again, and we're not getting Champions League football. And I just don't want that. I don't want that. I can't stomach another season of not being in the Champions League and building again. I'd rather, if Mourinho is going to go, we finish 3rd or something like that. It's not good enough and he goes, and we get a new manager in and we can spend some money and we're in the Champions League. I don't want a horrific season. And to be honest with you, I don't think we'll get a horrific season. I don't see why people think we're going to get that. We played bad football last season and we still got 2nd. All right, there might be some improvement from teams around us, but I still think we'd get 3rd or 4th. So I'm not concerned. I don't think Zidane will change the players, says Zon Gokui in 97. I do disagree with that. I think if you did bring a Pochettino in or you did bring a Zidane in, you would see a total different Manchester United team, simply because those two managers have a very different style of play. If you put Klopp in charge of United, or Pep in charge of United, or Sarri in charge of United, or Emery in charge of United, you'd see a more pleasing on the eye United, because Mourinho's style of play isn't pleasing on the eye. This is what the club got, though, and the club got that. The club went for Mourinho because they thought he was going to win the Premier League. And the fact that he hasn't makes it hard, because he's never going to be able to compete in the style of play, we think. So I think if Pochettino or Zidane did get the job, you would see a better brand of football. We need better fullbacks, says Nabil Hassan. United need to win the league before we start worrying about the style of play. Hope Mourinho can do it, says Andrew Field. Fred wasn't great first game, but I see him becoming a very popular player, says Jay Coulters. Look, effectively, Fred's come, off the beach, hasn't he? Off his holidays, into a United shirt. He only came into the tour halfway through, so he's got fitness levels. He's got to get used to the Premier League. He looked a bit ragged. To be honest with you, there was total contrasts on Fred's player rating. Some people were giving him 5 out of 10, and some people were giving him 8 out of 10. So I quite like that sort of player, though. I'd be more worried if everyone was giving him 5 out of 10. I think the people who wanted to mark him badly were probably being too critical, and the people who marked him highly saw a lot of potential in him. I thought he played well against Leicester, and what I think is, imagine what he's going to be like after 5 to 10 games in the Premier League. But he's got to be given those games. Bernard says his style of play is terrible. Well, let's see what happens. Let me just mention the director of football. I do want to talk about that. The director of football that I think that would be absolutely perfect for Manchester United, and I must get his name right because I don't want to call him Phil Mitchell when it is Paul Mitchell. Now, this is another article that's come from, I think it was from Sky Sports. Now, obviously, we've heard about the Roma director of football, the Juventus director of football, Edwin van der Sar. Sky Sports mentioned 2 names today. Dan Ashworth, who's the technical director at England and has sort of been one of the people that's been fundamental in the cross-the-board England under-15s all the way up to the national team, style of play, culture, everything like that. So that's quite encouraging. So that's Dan Ashworth who's been linked to us. But I really like Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell is currently director of football at RB Leipzig. He was formerly at Spurs and formerly at Southampton. Pretty much followed Pochettino. So when he was at Southampton, he was responsible for bringing in players like Mane, who then went on to Liverpool. When he was at Spurs, he was responsible for bringing in people like Dele Alli. And then obviously he's gone to RB Leipzig quite recently. Now, to me, if you want a director of football, what I want the director of football to be is somebody who fundamentally understands the English game, because we are an English football club, and knows how to bring talent through from England. Also, a good understanding of European football. And he ticks both those boxes. I think he's about mid-30s as well. So very, very good experience. And to me, ticks the box. Out of everybody I've looked at so far, and I've looked at a few, and I know the Roma guy is well touted by a lot of United fans, but I really like the look of him because Paul Mitchell, he has that pedigree of the Premier League, and what to be fair, look at the recruitment at Southampton and what they sold them on for. Look at the recruitment at Spurs and what they became. Look at what he's doing at RB Leipzig as well. So what he could do for Manchester United, I think, would be very good. I mean, I think it's going to be a long process with the director of football, but that's the sort of person they should be going for, or a European equivalent. I don't necessarily think that Van der Sar, just because he played for United and he's got a job at Ajax. I want somebody with pedigree. I want somebody who understands the world football game. I want somebody good who can bring players in. the most important thing with the director of football, I must say, is it depends on what you want your director of football to do. Do you want your director of football to be looking at bringing Griezmann over or someone like that? Or do you want your director of football to be bringing in the next Martial, that sort of player, the next Ronaldo, the next Dele Alli, from the lower leagues, whatever? And I actually think when you look at Sir Alex Ferguson, because that's predominantly what my Manchester United support's been, when you look at him, yes, there was the occasional Roy Keane signing, breaking the British transfer record, your Andy Cole, your Varane, your Van Nistelrooy. But, I mean, to be fair, Van Nistelrooy was from PSV. He was scoring a lot of goals, but he was from the Dutch league. But predominantly, Sir Alex Ferguson's signings would be your sort of your Ronaldos, your potential signings. Really good talent, but sort of scouted. Your Nannies, your Andersons, your Ronaldos. And that's been successful for United over the years. So I'd like to see that. I would like to see a director of football with that scope, with that parameter. Yes, occasionally we want a big player, but actually we want the next big player. We want the next big talent. That's what we're looking for. That's what I would like to see. Mark, I want us to win the league. Jose asks, just to shove it up the Klopp's Pep and the media's #, hashtag Classic United. Russell Nyoni, you know what? I would absolutely, it would be a long, hard season, but I would laugh my head off if United won the title, grinding out 1-0s, playing crap football. It would be the ultimate meltdown. But it would be very hard for us as United fans as well. It would be a long, stressful season. I mean, it was bad enough against Leicester on Friday in them last few minutes when you're hanging on. We always seem to be only one goal ahead, and that always makes for uncomfortable viewing. But to be honest with you, I don't really care how we win the title. The reality is, I think unless we collapse big time and we've got no chance of getting top 4, Jose Mourinho, that's the only way he's going to get sacked during this season. So in my mind, Mourinho's here for the season. He may as well win the league. Which will be very difficult, but you've got to keep believing. There will never be another Anthony Martial. He's that kind of player, says Russell. Rude was the best striker we had, says Abu. Leipzig bringing through some proper talent last couple of seasons. Keita, Forsberg, Upamecano, Konat, Werner, etc. Worth a shout. I believe Mitchell only went there in February of this year. I might be wrong with that with Leipzig, but he's got a very, very good pedigree. Especially with Southampton and Spurs, and obviously I think he's going to do good things there. Crash Bandicoot says a director of football would be a godsend. I think it's something that we can reluctantly look back on the transfer window and say if we'd had a director of football in place, we would have more signings. There was clearly a clash between Mourinho and Woodward on the players, and I'd love to know what those players were. I mean, we were never in for Alderweireld apparently, which is what I'd said all summer. I said I don't think we're in for Alderweireld. He doesn't strike me as the sort of player that United would go for. We were interested in Varane, but who isn't? Maguire, but Leicester didn't want to sell. Sandro, we should have got that deal done. So I think a director of football would have been good for us, and maybe next summer it will be. But what does a director of football mean to Jose Mourinho is something that maybe people haven't realised. And what it means is that Jose Mourinho basically becomes a coach. He's not involved in player acquisition. He becomes a coach. He has ideas. He goes to the director of football, but they go and get the players that they think are suitable to the parameters of Manchester United. So if Ed Woodward says to the director of football, we want Martial signings, that sort of player for the future, for the brand of Manchester United, and the director of football goes to Mourinho, Mourinho says, I want Boateng and Willian because I want short-term fixes. And the director of football goes, no, there's Pulisic, and there is, a 22-year-old left-back who's, got a great pedigree. And Mourinho goes, what? I've got to develop those sort of players? I think that I just feel that you can sort of sense what the board want. They want the Pulisic signing. Mourinho doesn't want that sort of signing, and the director of football is going to come in between. But as I said last night, I just feel no matter what happens, Mourinho will go at the end of this season. And how great would it be if he won the Premier League and went, I'm off. This is as good as it's going to get. Then you lot get your Zidane. I get my Premier League and Mourinho proving everyone wrong. Mourinho walks off into the sunset and we turn a new page at Manchester United with a Premier League and we reset the clock. That, to me, would be the dream scenario. But we'll have to wait and see. It's a long, hard season, absolutely. There was a comment here I wanted to read. I want a director of football to bring in young talent but also spend some money as well, says Shaka Phillips. there's money to spend at Manchester United. I just think it needs to be the right talent, right target. Joe Clark says, carry on buying pensioners. Your club's a shambles right now. Well, Joe, obviously you're not a Manchester United fan, which is fine. But I think that's why we haven't signed players this summer, or more players than we have, because the club have refused to sign pensioners. So, you know what? I'm quite positive about that. As long as signings are taken out of Woodward's hands, I'm happy, says Paul Lucas. And stuff of dreams, that would be Mark, says Tommy King. Look, nothing is impossible, as Pankaj says, and we can win the league. But it's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult. And my first sort of hurdle at the moment with Manchester United, and I don't know what yours is. I mean, get in the comments. Tell me what your sort of immediate hopes are. My immediate hopes with Manchester United are that we beat Brighton and Spurs and Burnley before the international break. We've got 4 games before this international break instead of 3. If we can go into the international break with 12 points, however we play, I'll be absolutely ecstatic. If we can get 12 points and play quite well, I'll be even more happy. If we can get 12 points and after that Burnley game, Pereira's still in the team, Luke Shaw's still in the team, and Martial's broken into the team, I'll be in dreamland. But actually, I think we've got to take everything a step at a time. And the most important thing for United at the moment is points. We always start well with Mourinho. We've got to start well. Because if we do hit a bad result, whether it's Brighton, Spurs or Burnley, we hit one bad result and you'll see what United fans have been thinking for the last 6 months. Because I think at the moment, everybody's willing to give it a go. But you can't hide from the fact that we've been doing shows throughout the summer. After that Sevilla game, there was a big turn against Mourinho and the club, and that will come back. And I don't want that to happen. Okay, I would love top 4 director of football in Zidane next year, says Vince Chapman. I think that's a more realistic hope. Top 4 director of football. Mourinho goes, new manager comes in, we start again. It's not what I want. I think we need to dream higher than that, but. You know, in fairness to Manchester City, they've got the same manager. They won the title by loads of points. And they're in a strong position, aren't they? They're going to be very, very, very difficult to... like I say, they're going to win the first 7 games. They've already won 1. The next 6 games, they'll win them all. Look at the fixtures. It's going to be tough. I'm with you, Gareth, that, and Gareth Bale can do one now. It was now or never, and I think a lot of people were worried about Bale at 28 and injury prone. You wouldn't take him at 29. Move on. There'll be somebody else next summer who's the next big thing. In fact, we might already have him at the club and his name initials are AM. We're winning the title, says Michael Hubbard. I like the positivity. And Mark, what do you think of these former United wingers? Jesper Olsen, Lee Sharp, Andrei Kanchelskis, Willie Morgan, Steve Coppell, George Best, Ryan Giggs. That's from Ruth Myers. I'll tell you what I think, Ruth. I think it's a big indicator of the way that United should be playing. I'd love to see us getting down the wing. If anyone ever gets a chance to watch my FIFA predicts on my channel, which I do for all the Premier League games, or my FIFA career modes, watch how I play. I always go down the wings. And I don't know how you are when you're playing football games or anything like that. I always go down the wings. And that's not because I've decided I want to go down the wings. It's because that's in my psyche, because of Sir Alex Ferguson and Manchester United. I always want to go down the wings and put crosses in the box. There's nothing more satisfying than putting a cross in the box at pace and someone getting on the end and it heading it home. I love it. That's my Radox. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Please do drop a like on the video. 500 likes would be nice before we get off air. So if you haven't dropped a like, please do. Let me think what we've got coming up for you tomorrow. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock as per usual. I think we're doing a Skype show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. We'll probably do Brighton United preview at 1 o'clock tomorrow. That'll be live. Make sure you give the Predictor Game Challenge a watch. That was with the celebrity from Power, Brandon. We're going to do that on a week by week basis as well. We've got Jose Mourinho's press conference reaction on Friday afternoon. I'm doing a show on my channel tomorrow, but I'm not going to promote it on here. It's going to be very good. But yeah, loads of content as usual, and we're getting closer to the weekend, which is another game for United, so loads to get involved with there. Thanks everybody for watching, and I shall speak to you all very soon. Have a good evening. Go and get over and watch the Super Cup, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid.